Hello everyone! In this video I'm going to show you what I consider to be the absolute best base locations in the center. Now this is going to be dependent upon accessibility as well as considering resource location to the actual base as well as building space. So the first location here is actually going to be located just across from the lava biome here. And we're located here on the map on the third island that is there in the middle, and the coordinates are 25.9 latitude and 60.4 longitude. So what you're going to want to do is just work your way up through the beach here. It is not very far in whatsoever, but it is very well hidden by the foliage here. You can see this cavern is right here. And this is another one of the caves that, of course, was completely reworked from Ark Survival Evolved. This is a bear cave, so you will have to go through and clear out the bears, but it is a massive, massive cave. So if you're looking for a cool cave build, you can kill the bears here, or you can tame them as well. Grab some crystals, some early metal as well, and then you do have this ruin to work with on the back. There's plenty of space to build a 2 or maybe even a 3-story build in here. And you really don't have to worry about any sort of defenses as you have this natural protection from the cave. All right, let's move on over to the next location here. All right, and now we have arrived at our second location here. You will be pretty familiar with this as you'll probably see it if you spawn in immediately at the blue obelisk here. It's going to be this little island here. It is a massive, massive island, and it is quite flat. A lot of space to build with. The only thing you have to worry about is the occasional spinel that spawns over there. There is one that could spawn, there in the middle here, and then there is one typically that could spawn over here. So I wouldn't say it's an early base, but there's a lot of space to build with. And then, of course, when it comes to quick metal runs and crystal, you do have access to the materials that are here on the back ledge. And then you are just right next to the Skull Island, so you have a couple pieces of metal there and a crap load of obsidian. All right. So that's going to be a builder's paradise, if you will, that one over there. Or you could also do this one, either one, whatever your preference is. But let's move over to the next base location. All right, and now here is the next base location. Now I was pretty skeptical to include this because I wanted to try to avoid including too many ruin locations. I feel like that's been a pretty common theme throughout Ark Survival Ascended. But this one is pretty notable as it is directly in the middle of the map. It is very, very close to 50-50. So you technically could experience some weird shenanigans in the sky. But yeah, it's located right here on the map at the 49.1, 51.2. The reason this specific location, though, is so great, even though it is, like I said, mentioned, the ruin here, is you do have quite a bit of space down here to build with. You can just block off this one path, so you can create kind of a multi-level base there. And then you have this giant hallway. Technically, you could just use this, and you could basically just place different structures and walls here. So you already have a floor or foundation you can work with that's flat. You got a ceiling for protection. So all you need to do is fill in these small little gaps and then a foundation for supports, of course. And it's super, super long, so plenty of room. You could just make this your base, and that's pretty much it. You don't have to use anything else. But if you did want to use more, you could actually use this bottom piece here, most likely for some dino storage. Again, you have to block off the small little holes. But there's plenty of space. Even Rexes, could fit in here. I don't know if they could walk through this per se, but if you had a cryopod, you could probably just drop them out and even have them in here for breeding. And then you do have a small little alcove in here if you wanted something just a bit more subtle and didn't want to build as much. The only thing you would need to block off here is this doorway. All right, let's move on over to the next location here. All right, now this next location is what I would consider probably one of the best, if not the best locations because of their resources. So it is on the edge of the map here. We're located actually above the redwoods at the 89.766.3. The reason it is so great, if you watched my resource video, you'll know why, but you've got this giant area here that's flat. You do have a little bit of crystal here you could go through and farm. And then you also have this whole undershelf if you wanted to build here instead, so you're completely away from creatures and have this natural protection. But you are literally just right outside this resource cave. So obviously if you're playing like on official or PvP, I don't think any of these bases might be too great for PvP that are out in the open. The cave ones, of course, could work out. But yeah, this place is chock full of all that metal, thousands and thousands of metal and crystal. Probably the best place to get metal and crystal on the land. Additionally, the bottom water here, there is quite a few beavers. Now, I haven't been able to locate a dam yet. I've only looked for a couple of moments here, but there is quite a few beavers in this section here. And there's also a couple sections over here where there's beavers as well. So it might just be a bad coincidence. But you pretty much have access to most of the things here. And then if you were to leave the redwoods here, on the shelf down below here, there is plenty of oil. Let's move on over to the next one. All right, and now the next location here is actually also in the redwoods here. It's going to be right here. So if you're looking to build a tree base, if you come back here, you'll notice there's this giant stone pillar in the middle of the redwoods. It's located here on the map at 75.9 and 50.5. So the reason this is so great, if you look at the level of all of the trees, this one stands far and above basically every single thing else. So if you go to place your foundation here, now let's lock this in place. It's going to place right there. That seems to be, is that the only place it will snap? Yes, that does appear to be the only place it will snap. But yeah, you go through and you place that. Even that, look at all these trees around you. It is too high up for any thylas to actually be there. And you get this beautiful, majestic view. So if you've got the resources, again, not an early game, but this is amazing. Like, look how great this is. You can see all of the loot drops that are spawning in, so you know where to go. You, like I mentioned earlier, the other huge resource location is way up there. You also have plenty of metal and oil down there. The only thing I don't think that is too close is going to be the silica pearls. So you might have to go venture out for that and possibly some oil. But outside of that, this looks amazing. You can see the boss arena. It's just a really, really cool place. So I would highly recommend you build here if you're looking for a scenic location. And it's also pretty safe. All right, let's move on over to the next location. All right, so now at this next location here, you can just see to the right of us here that we actually have the Skull Island here. And it's going to be right here. Look at these two giant platforms that are super, super flat. You can go through down here and see just how flat this thing is, and it extends for forever. So if you're looking for something with a whole bunch of space, and you just want to be able to have something to work with and not feel limited to the space like you would on, let's say, an island, for example, and at the same time, you have every single resource you need to be able to build. So you've got a whole bunch of wood and a whole bunch of stone just laying around here. This is definitely a great spot. And then here on the map, again, it's also very close to being in the middle of the map. You're at 62.7 latitude and 53.8 longitude. This would be a fantastic place that's pretty easily accessible as well, and pretty much has access to everything because it's located near the beginning or the middle of the map. All right, let's move on over to the next location. All right, now this next location is a little bit different as it's not very large in comparison to some of the previous ones that I showed you here, but I did want to try and include some locations from at least every part of the map if I could. So this is actually in the snow biome here. You notice that you've got this really large plateau, not large, medium-sized plateau, but it's very flat. It's located here on the map, so you're looking at 61.9 latitude and 21.2 longitude. Now, the reason this is great is, one, you're in the snow biome, which is a very, very harsh environment, but it's pretty secure and safe as the cliff is way up there, and the only real way things can come up and down would be this location here. And if you go up just a tad bit to this giant plateau, it is chock full of a buttload of metal and crystal. Like, I'm talking probably in the thousands for both. There just seems to be a plethora of resources all over on the center. So you would not be looking for any sort of resources and feel that there's a scarcity on those, as they are lined up all over these mountains and hilltops here. So yeah, a little smaller than previously, but if you want kind of a humble home, looking for something in the snow, then this would be a great place to have it. Or yeah, right down there, my bad. All right, let's move on over to the next location here. All right, now this next location here is actually also in the snow biome, the same southern snow biome here. It's located here on the map at 48.7 latitude and 20.4 longitude. Now, what makes this one kind of unique, so the resources are up above as before, so not a big deal with the resources, but it kind of almost looks like a cave. Like if you could go through and fill this whole outer wall with like glass panes, that would look really, really cool. Or of course, if you needed something to protect you like metal, you could. But basically what it is, it's almost like a little cavern. So you can just go through in here. It's not like a massive amount of space, but if you were to clear out all these trees and this rocks, and there's some metal in here too, you could build something really, really cool, like almost turn it into like a cliffside home and have this really scenic view of the swamp and the floating center island and the waterfall over there. So I definitely think this is something to note in regards to the scenic view and the available resources that are up top. Like I mentioned, not a huge place to build, but overall a pretty decent spot. All right, let's move on over to the next location now. All right, now if you are enjoying the video so far, then please consider leaving a like and subscribing if you're not already. Now, these next locations here, I was a little skeptical to put them on, just in regards to because the fact they are super dangerous. But some people are okay having turrets at their base all the time, so this is the snow area here. The reason I chose this specific area, there's like this plateau here, this very, very big plateau, and there's also one over here. Right here, sorry. This kind of lower snowy region here, located on the map at the 36.3, 8.6 or 7 latitude, just next to the little igloo here, is pretty flat, and there's a whole bunch of space to build with. The only problem is, of course, if it's a snow biome. I have not seen. Oh, yep, there it is. So I haven't seen a Utyrannus, but there's one right here. So it is a very dangerous area, and you really don't have too many natural defenses. And it's not super close to any of the crazy big resources I already mentioned. So I'm going to call this an honorable mention because if you want to build here, just know there's a huge flat area to do so. And I do think the grass looks really nice and it's pretty conveniently next to the organic polymer, which you're going to need a buttload of. And there's very few locations to get that. So that is nice. Maybe a little outpost would be good. But yeah, let's move over to the next base location. All right, now this next location here, I had a really hard time deciding on this because, like I said, I want to try and find a location for kind of each area. And the swamp is just, unless you're a madman or you like all the craziness, you usually don't build in the swamp. But I want to try and find something. So I'm going to say this giant island right here is technically, I don't know if it's the swamp. It's like on the edge of the swamp, so I'm going to count it. But it's super flat, whole bunch of trees. So you can easily build yourself a nice little base and literally basically live just like borderline the swamp. I really do wish we had the platforms from Aberration because then they could snap to like any of these pillars, and that would make for some really cool bases all throughout this map. But yeah, I think this is going to be the best base for a swamp-ish base. In regards to the resources here, though, you do have a couple of the. You've got these center location there. You've got the snow biome just located right there, and then of course you've got the lava island behind you. So you are kind of in the at the 31.1 latitude and 40.6 longitude, so not the middle of the map, but pretty close to some of the resource locations. All right, let's move on over to the next location. All right, so the next location here is actually going to be located in the northern snow biome at the 19.9 latitude and 31.8 longitude. If you're okay, also this is a pretty dangerous area, so if you're okay with the Rexes knocking on your front door, you'll definitely need to build some defenses to live here. But it is pretty flat, as you can notice. There's a couple of bumps and stuff here and there. And then this lower platform, I think, is probably safer. It seems to be the higher up you go, the more dangerous stuff it is. And it's also flatter down here as well, but you do risk the chance of them possibly falling in on your base. But just to kind of point out up here, there's a whole bunch of bad stuff, and there is a possible giga spawn. So you do need to be very careful if you're going to build anywhere in this northern section of the ice, as there is a... Oh, I think he is coming for me. I am not for lunch, sir. Okay, cool. Yeah, so be careful of that. There's a giga spawn, so I mean, I guess anywhere kind of around this area, know that you can go look for gigas. Just know he can also knock on your front door and eat you. So yeah, there's that. Let's move on over to the next one here. All right, now for this next location here, you're actually smack in the middle of the red up here, which is where there's a giga spawn, and the giga spawn that I just showed you up at the northern ice here. So it's actually one of the new little inlets here with this tower. This island here is pretty isolated from everything, so you shouldn't be too much that can kill you out here. I think I saw a parasaur, and I think I saw a couple of dillos, yeah. But nothing real bad. And there's plenty of space to work with, and you have all these little inlets that kind of as your scenery. So if you wanted to build something to run between them, you could definitely do that too. But this specific area is very, very flat. And of course, like I mentioned, you have plenty of resources on both sides of you, and then all you just have is an ocean behind you. So nothing really that's going to attack you out here. And this is located at the 12.2 and 36.5. All right, let's move on over to the next one. All right, and now for the next location here, we are actually on the fiery lava biome here, in case there are some of you crazy people out there who want to live on this location, because my frames are the worst on this island than they are anywhere else. Granted, PlayStation's performance is kind of crap compared to PCs in general, but yeah, so this place is pretty cool. You got this really cool little water in the middle. You do have a Spino that will spawn here, and of course all the other bad stuff on this island, but there's this cave right here. You will have to do some kind of design on the middle, maybe some pillars with some ceilings to get a flat surface, but all you got to do is basically block off this one little section here, and then you could block off this little section, probably just use a gateway for the other one. This one might need two, and then you need a couple more, or even a behemoth gate for this one. And then, of course, like I mentioned, you have water that's pretty close by. You do have a couple of resources inside this cave that you can harvest the first time. And then being on this island, of course, there are plenty of more resources with your obsidian and your metal just a little bit farther up. You do have to be careful because this spot here, this specific lava spot, does have a giga spawn. So, if he does fall down there, there's a possibility, he'll try and munch on you. And of course, you do got to look out for these guys too if you have the paid DLC. Basically, everything here wants to kill you. So if you want to live here, great. That might be a solid spot. If not, let's move on to the next location. Okay, now this next one's here is kind of odd. I would say that this is more for a builder type person and not just for survival, as it's going to require some work. So you've got this bridge here, you got the lava island over there, And then over here, you've actually got the blue op. So there's this bridge that connects everything. You can probably do something pretty cool here if you want to do like a cliffside base here in the middle, just above the water. And then maybe even do something with these two different arches. That'd be really, really cool. But I would say, again, you got to be a builder and want to put in the work to make this something really cool. But if you did, I guarantee you no one's going to have anything like it. That's going to look amazing. So I figured that was worth noting. And you got resources like I mentioned, or there's resources over there, and you got some resources on this location just over here, and you're far enough away from all the bad stuff. All right, let's move on over to the next one. So the appeal for this next location is actually going to be the fact that it's in the middle for the most part of the map. It's going to be located at 46.2 and 56.9. So you'll notice here, you won't actually see if you fly over the top, but this whole plateau right here is extremely flat and gives you quite a bit to work with, and it goes all the way back to this cliff wall here. And so that plateau runs all the way over in between these two rocks. And then additionally, if you wanted to build a little bit higher and basically above this ruin here, you have this whole plateau as well, which also is, this one's a little bit more bumpy, but it's still quite a bit of space to work with. Very flat, very open. Now you will have the occasional thread up here. I think I've seen some carnos, but there's a couple of resources right here on this actual cliff as well. I believe there is some metal just around the corner here. Yeah, right there. But yeah, it's just mainly here in the middle, so it's a really good spot if you want something in the middle of the map, a little bit higher up, or just something with some flat space to work with. All right, let's move on over to the next location. All right, now this next location is going to seem a little odd at first, but bear with me. This is going to be the absolute best location if you want to be closest to the most rich amount of resources in the entire game. So this is basically, you're just going to have this little plateau here, and you've got some space on the beach to work with. It's not super flat, but it's actually located here on the map. It is located on the upper northern spawn, the isle here at 29.9 and 79.5. Now, the reason this is going to be one of the best places to be is going to be the Oceanic Trench. And this is going to be the closest location on land you can get to it. So you're going to swim straight out all the way. You cannot miss it, basically until it drops off. And then you're going to see possibly some rendering, depending on how well your console or computer can run the game, and you'll see a bunch of bright lights. You're just going to swim straight down. And as soon as you get straight down here, you will see a buttload of metal all over the ground here, metal all over here. There's literally, if you were to clear all the metal through all these pillars, and additionally, this is just the outside. There's actually caverns that go inside too. There is easily hundreds of thousands of metal down here when you farm it with the donkey. You can also go through and find crystal down here, a whole bunch of oil, and then there's also going to be your standard stone. And then there is some small deposits. I don't see them here, but there's also obsidian as well. So this is going to be the #1 best place to get all those resources that I just mentioned. Oh, there's some obsidian right next to the lava here. All right, well, that pretty much wraps it up for this base location video. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. It took me quite a bit of time to not just find the locations, but also go through and find the details as to why these locations are actually great, because I feel like that's often left out when base videos are discussed and only the locations shown. So I really hope you guys did enjoy that. If you did, again, please consider leaving a like and subscribing if you're not already.